Yes! Lion's Lair, we're doing it. We're filming a special here. What the fuck? And listen, it's a shithole. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no lipstick on this pig. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you have to go to the bathroom tonight, I'm sorry. I apologize. Piss in the alley like everyone knows to do. Rookie. I started comedy here 20 years ago this month. I started right here. Thank you very much. Thank you. I was thinking that I wanted to try stand-up comedy. I learned there was an open mic here. I came and I checked it out one night. It was Mondays at 11 p.m. That's when it started. Picture this place, Mondays, 11 p.m. Picture it. But I was wrecked. I showed up and maybe 15 comedians went up. 3 of them were okay, and then 12 of them were just dog shit. And I was like, I've never done this before, and I guarantee I'm funnier than those people. So I went home and I wrote jokes, and I worried all week long. I paced, I practiced them in the mirror. I came back the next Monday at 11, and there was a band playing. There's no open mic at all. And I could have interpreted that as the sign that I wasn't meant to do this. I could have tucked my tail and ran away, but no, I came back the next week with jokes that sort of worked. And I've been doing comedy ever since. And if I didn't do that on that night, 20 years later, almost 100 people in this room would have had to make other plans. Yeah. That'd be very inconvenient for all of you. You had sitters lined up. You would have adjusted, gone to a restaurant or a concert, but you didn't have to, because you came to the Lion's Lair for my special, and I sure appreciate everybody. Thank you very much.
So it's funny you ask, because like when I started, I remember that the stage was over there, and I feel like there was like a booth, and now there's no booth, and the stage is over there. Time, you know, it's like it's ruthless. Oh, now the booth's over there. Yeah, they moved the booth.
I have 2 kids, so you have to hear about it. That's how that social contract works. Sorry, but there it is. I have kids. A lot of people in this room have kids. I know that for a fact. If you don't have kids and you're wondering if you're ready to have children, let me pose for you a hypothetical scenario. And it'll let you know immediately whether or not you already have children. Imagine, hypothetically speaking, you're on vacation with your wife and your 2 boys, age 2 and 5, hypothetical. And you're at a breakfast restaurant and you've ordered breakfast and the food hasn't come out yet, but the 2-year-old's acting like such a maniac that you're like, we just have to go. We have to leave the restaurant. We're never going to see this food. If we don't leave, we're going to get arrested. We have to go. And so you're like, you know what? We'll just go to a coffee shop. We'll get pastries. We'll get coffee. We'll go to a playground. They can run it out. It'll be perfect. But by the time you get to the coffee shop, the 2-year-old's been such a continual maniac that the 5-year-old is now sobbing. And your wife's like, I'm taking the 5-year-old to the coffee shop. You deal with the 2-year-old. I don't even want to fucking look at that kid anymore. And you're like, all right, I'll deal with the 2-year-old. So you're like wrestling with him. You're trying to get him out of that car seat, and he's punching you, and he's kicking you. And you're just like, how does this ferret have my DNA? And finally, you extract him out of the car seat, and you put him on the ground. And that's when you realize the whole time he was kicking you, he had dog shit all over his tiny shoes. And it's now on your shirt and your pants and your person, generally speaking. Hypothetically, how would you deal with that, gang? What do you do in that scenario? No takers? Okay. All right, I'll tell you exactly what you do. There's only one right answer. You go back to the hotel that you're staying at, and you make your entire family watch you take a shower wearing Jess jeans. You lock eyes with your boys. You lock eyes with them. And you say, let this be the only memory you retain from this trip. Not the hike, not the hot springs. Dad in denim, showering, like Patrick Swayze before he shot every scene in the movie Roadhouse. Except that's not even what happened. You want to know what happened? We just went to the playground. I got the diaper bag out, I wiped myself off with wipes as best I could, poured some water on myself, and we just went to the playground. And that's when you're ready to be a parent. When you're not a parent, you're like, hypothetically, were I to ever get dog shit on my person, I imagine I'd have to change clothes immediately. When you're a parent, you're like, I got dog shit on me, I can ride this through nap time. There's no problem. I honestly think it's a pretty cool look. We go to the playground. It's a fancy playground. It's got a zip line for the kids to just zip from the one platform to the other. I'm a good dad. I'm involved. I'm helping my boys. I'm ferrying them from point A to point B. And all the other kids on the playground, they got wind of it. They're like, look, a parent with some life in his eyes. Get him! And like suddenly all the kids are like, my turn, my turn. I'm like, okay. And I'm helping all the children, ferrying them across the zip line. And at some point, my boys lost interest and wandered off. And still just me helping the kids. And there's these moments in life where everything slows down and you zoom out and you see exactly what it is that you've become. And there I was, a man, vaguely wet, redolent of dog shit, on a playground playing with children who were not his own. We're done at 2. We are done. No more. Done at 2 kids. Honestly, we've started talking about adoption. Yeah. If we can find a good home for the 2-year-old, we're ready to downsize this thing. 4 just feels unwieldy. I gotta tell you guys, the parenting part, I love. I'm good at it, and I love it. The conversations with other parents, I could do without. I've had my fill for the rest of my life. And I'll get off the parenting thing for the non-parents, but let me give you one quick tip, which is this. No one warns you that a huge part of having children is riding the same insipid conversation carousel over and over and over again with people who the only thing you have in common with is that you had sex in the same calendar year. If I have to have one more conversation about neighborhood schools, I'm gonna fake my own death. I swear to God. I'm gonna stuff a mannequin full of meat and throw it under a passing bus. Move to the next city, start over. Get real into firearms and scratch tickets, hard pivot. What high school am I sending him to? He's 5 years old, man. I haven't thought past tomorrow. I don't even know how we found the school we're currently at. But I'm just gonna keep taking him there until they say he can't come anymore. And on that day, I'll ask the principal earnestly. I'll say, well, where do I take him now? And if they don't have an answer, I guess I help him get a job. That's job time, little dude. He talks a lot about wanting to be an astronaut. We're driving to Cape from Canaveral. Get the fuck in. He does. My son wants to be an astronaut. Classic little boy. So I have to read him all these space books. I don't know if you guys are up on children's literature, but it's very busy lately. There's the main narrative, and then there's all these little factoid bubbles and information boxes, and you got to read all of them to the kid because they demand it. So I was reading my boy this book on space, and I read this exact factoid, which said, if you cry in space, because of the lack of gravity, the tears will not roll down your cheeks, so you have to wipe them away. And I didn't know that. Here's another factoid that I didn't know. Apparently, some astronauts are pussies. Some astronauts get to space and realize their problems have followed them there. Some astronauts get to the ISS, and all the other astronauts want to talk about is where you're taking your kids when you get back to Earth. It never ends. What do you guys think of the set? Pretty nice, huh? At any point, if you pull these curtains back, someone will be shooting up. That's a cool feature of this set.
I mean, I get recognized a lot. All right, 20 years doing comedy, mostly in Denver. You get recognized a fair amount. People always come up and they're like, where do I know you? Hey, I know you from somewhere. Where do I know you from? And I'm always like, oh, I do comedy. I tell jokes around here. You probably come to a show. And they're like, no, you're the weather dude for Channel 7. And I'm like, no, we look alike, but I'm not that guy. And they're like, you're Doppler Dave you're Doppler Dave from Channel 7. I go, I'm not Doppler Dave. And they go, what's the weather going to be, Doppler Dave? What's the 10-day forecast? And I say, bring a jacket.
Getting older. The thing about getting older is you don't realize you're getting older. You still think you're the same young buck you always were. Until you try something that you used to do with relative ease, and your body stages a violent insurrection against you. Like, I recently threw out my back having sex with my wife. And yeah, she didn't ask me to try to suck my own dick in front of her. But it was her birthday and I wanted to do something special. Plus, the coupon I had given her the year before was about to expire. I was like, honey, you've got literal hours on this thing. Redeem it! Redeem it, I say! You get old, your thoughts get lame. I have the stupidest thoughts. I hate them. I have lame thoughts. The other day, I was walking my dog. Rare moment of solitude. Rare moment of solitude. My wife's like, somebody's got to walk this dog. It's been days. I was like, I'll do it. I'll be back in 9 hours. I'm going to walk the shit out of this dog. Walking through the neighborhood alone. Rare moment. And I had this thought, and I said it out loud to nobody, to myself. Had this thought and said it. I just said, okay, see, this is good landscaping. What? And up until that point, I didn't realize I was utterly dissatisfied with all other landscaping. But apparently I was, profoundly so. For in this rare moment of quiet, I revealed to myself this truth. I hate the landscaping in this neighborhood, except for this one house. But I didn't have time to dwell on that shit, because the next thing I know, I see my neighbor Steve, and he's dragging the recycling bins down to the curb, dragging the compost bin down to the curb, not realizing Monday was a federal holiday. It's gonna push collection day back one day, and I gotta watch Steve's dumbass out there the whole next day, being like, where are the bins? Have they come to your house yet? What's going on? Is there some sort of emergency? What the fuck is going on in your life, Steve, that you don't remember that Monday was a federal holiday? Every Saturday, you remember to fly your Michigan State game day flag, but you can't remember Monday was Cesar Chavez? Steve, you're 55. How are you going to suck your alma mater's dick? Plus, these squirrels are pissing me off. You know what I'm talking about? Squirrels are pissing me off, dude. Going at my bird feeders hard. You should have seen my porch on Halloween. What a goddamn mess. You know I'm a gourd guy. But that's fair. That's fair game, right? That's outside. That's our shared territory. Well played, squirrels. Check this shit out. Other day, my family and I, we go out to run some errands, and we left the windows up to air the house out a little bit. Screen's down, but windows up. Get some fresh air in there. We come back. In the kitchen window screen, a squirrel had chewed a perfect squirrel-sized hole through the screen, and it was sitting on the carpet in our kitchen, and it had gathered all the apples in the house, and it had taken a bunch of little bites out of all of them. And he sees us, and he's like, oh shit! And he grabs an apple, and he darts out that hole, I swear to God, without even touching the mesh. Just like Thomas Crown Affair Squirrel Edition, just out. That is a transgression. That is a violation. And that is an escalation. So here's what I did. I followed that squirrel right back to its nest. And then I fucked his wife. How you like them apples? I could tell you guys hated squirrels the second you walked in. This is a safe space, everybody. I was writing jokes at a coffee shop the other day, and I don't want to reveal too much about the process, but when I write jokes, I like to listen to music. So I had earbuds in, listening to music, and I was watching a table of men in front of me. There were 5 of them, and one of them appeared to be the leader, and he was talking a lot and gesticulating, and they were all just nodding at everything he said. But I couldn't hear them because I had music going, and then there's that moment when the song fades out, and there's like 3-4 seconds before the next song comes in, and you hear just a snippet, right? So I heard just a little window of their conversation, and the only thing I heard was this guy saying to all his friends, very seriously, just, "Mountain lions are watching you. Make no mistake about it. They are watching you." And then the song kicked in. And I don't know where that conversation went. And we're all from Colorado. We probably know enough to know that this guy was talking about hiking. And you don't have to be scared about mountain lions. They know when you're coming long before you know they're coming, and they want to avoid you. It's all safe. But I like to think this guy wasn't talking about any of that shit at all. I like to think that this dude was just saying, generally speaking, mountain lions are watching you. Because what better way to live your life than as if a mountain lion's clocking your every move? I think we'd all be better people if we operated as if mountain lions were watching us. Like you go to parallel park your car, right? But you do a terrible job. You just like ding the bumper behind you, but it's not that bad, just a little scratch. You're like, whatever, I'm just gonna get out of here. And then you look out your passenger window, there's the fucking mountain lion looking at you. He's just nodding his head, "No, sir. Write a note, leave your email, dude. Do the right thing." Oh, you're fucking right. You're walking down the street, you're drinking a La Croix. I say La Croix, I'm super fancy. You're drinking a La Croix, you finish it, but there's nowhere to recycle it, and you're like, I don't want to just carry a can around all day. I'm just going to throw it in a trash can. You want to throw it in a trash can? Huge paw just reaches out, grabs it. "Hey man, take that home, recycle it in your own bin. Planet's dying, that's my habitat." Fucking right. You're right. You're in a hotel room, late at night, alone. You're like, you know what, I'm just gonna jerk off. Get your laptop out, then you look over at that one weird hotel chair. There's just a mountain lion watching you. And he's like, "Go ahead, I like it when you jerk off. I don't know why you only assign me noble qualities. I'm a multifaceted individual like anyone. You should jerk off extra hard for me, dude. I love it when you jerk off. After you jerk off, you should kill a guy. Some of my fondest memories are of killing guys. You should do it." You're like, "All right, I'll fucking kill a guy." 6 months later, you're in court. You're like, "The mountain lion told me to kill the guy. Right after I jerked off, he said I should kill the guy." Judge takes his mask off. He's a fucking mountain lion. One by one, all 12 jurors, mountain lions. Cut back to the coffee shop where I was writing. Those dudes were mountain lions. You guys, I'm working on a new horror movie. It's about mountain lions. It's called Lion to My Face. And everybody knows they're scary physically, but what my movie asks is, what about the psychological threat? Speaking of psychological threats. Cougars. It's all good. It's the fucking lion's lair. Someone's got to yell shit out. I can't have a special in this bar and be like, everyone will be behaved perfectly. I'll tell an absurdist rant on mountain lions, and this guy will be like, man, old hot ladies, who wants to talk about it? Huh? But what about those old hot ladies? I won't say any more, but if you have a bit about old hot ladies, you've got an audience. Speaking of mental health, I listen to a lot of podcasts, because look at me. But I think I'm listening to the wrong podcasts. Because I keep hearing ads for a company called Man Therapy. Have you guys ever heard of this? Mantherapy.com. And the ads are literally like, Man Therapy, get your brain box working tip-top. That's an actual ad. That's not a joke, that's one of their ads. Man Therapy, from the inventors of pork chops and tomahawk jets. Again, literal ad. That's their shit. As far as I can tell, Man Therapy's whole ad campaign is just like, get help, pussy. And as somebody who's gone to a lot of therapy and sees nothing emasculating about mental health, I just really resented these Man Therapy ads. So I was like, I'm gonna go on stage, I'm gonna tear Man Therapy a new one. It's gonna be so sweet. But But this voice in my head was like, hey, dude, why don't you look up what man therapy is before you just blindly attack them on stage? I was like, good point, voice in my head. And so I researched it. And man therapy is an organization trying to get men aged 25 to 35 into therapy. And we all know men aged 25 to 35. They're your Tylers. They're your Zanes. They're your Taylors. They're your Danes. And it seems real cool from afar. Nothing but e-scooting and fingering, right? But then turns out they get home and they're punching walls. But it's actually more serious than that. Men aged 25 to 35 are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women. 4 times. So man therapy is an organization trying to get these dudes, the bros of the world, into therapy, albeit in a way that I sort of resent. So I was like, good for you, man therapy. You're fighting the good fight, whatever. But ever since I realized that, I cannot stop writing ads for man therapy. I wake up every day, I was like, I got another one. I can get these dudes help. They need help. So I want to share with you some of my favorite ads for man therapy real quick, if that's cool with you guys. All right, these are my favorites. Man therapy. The brain is like a muscle. So why don't you let a shrink squeeze it and see how hard it is? Oh, I'm like not even flexing. I'm like not even flexing right now. Man therapy. Figure out why you only call your brother when the Broncos lose. Man therapy. Bet on your brain to beat the spread. Brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. Man therapy. The hug your father never gave you. Are we trying to get these dudes help or not? Some 27-year-old in a Tesla hears that on the radio. He pulls over. He makes a call. Man therapy. Remember when you called your brain gay and shoved it into a locker? Isn't it time you checked on it? It's been like a decade. Man therapy. Hey, dude, know how you're banned from your kid's soccer game for yelling at the refs? Well, a shrink just has to take it because you're paying them. Man therapy. It's pledge week in the fraternity upstairs. Time to kill a freshman. Man therapy. Listen, I get being vulnerable is like super hard and everything, but hear me out. What if your therapist has huge tits? Man therapy. Dude, remember what a badass Brad Pitt was in Fight Club? He didn't have a 6-pack, he had like an 8-pack, so shredded. Well, turns out he was actually the hallucination of a dangerous schizophrenic. So, you know, maybe you should talk to somebody or something. You sure do cry during a lot of Red Hot Chili Pepper songs. This is the last one. Man therapy. Hey, bud, life's pretty hard. No shame in talking through it all. Maybe in time you can work through it, and instead of calling it man therapy, you can just call it therapy like a real man. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. This is it. This is the booth that they moved from there. I fucking knew it. This is the same booth. Yeah, good to see it. Good to see this booth.
I don't like telling people I'm a comedian, because when you tell people you're a comedian, they tell you jokes, and that's the worst. That's just the worst. But sometimes I forget. Like the other day, I was out in public and I was wearing a shirt from Comedy Works, my home club downtown. Comedy Works, just wearing it on my chest. That's an invitation to talk to me about stand-up comedy. That'd be like a doctor wearing a lab coat on a bus. You're gonna get a lot of creeps coming up to you and showing you moles, you know what I mean? But I wasn't thinking, I was just out there getting dinner for my family. I'm wearing a Comedy Works shirt, just in line at Noodles and Company. Then I could see the kid working the register clock my shirt. He was a 26-year-old, a guy who needs man therapy. He's a man therapy. Like if a flip-flop could work a register. That was this dude. He sees me and he goes, "Aha, Comedy Works. You a comedian?" I go, "Oh, no, I was shirtless and cold and found this at Goodwill. What is comedy?" He goes, no, you can't fool me. You're a comedian. I got one for you, dude. I was like, fuck. He goes, "What's the difference between an anal and oral thermometer?" I just stared straight at the ground. I was like, "If you don't respond, this will go away. Just don't say anything. This will end." And he goes, "Difference between anal and oral thermometer? The taste." I said, "I'll have the quattro formaggio tortellini." He goes, "Comedy Works, huh? You know, my roommate, he's on the new talent night at Comedy Works. He's kicking butt. I'll tell you that, dude. He's got a different lady in his room every night of the week. You know what I'm talking about, dude?" Two kids, mac and cheeses. Large Caesar salad for the missus. He goes, "Here's another one for you." I go, "Fuck." He goes, why is that Easter bunny always hiding out those eggs?" Again, I didn't say a word, didn't engage. And he just goes, "Because he doesn't want anybody to know he's been fucking all those chickens." I said, I was recently reading Viktor Frankl's Holocaust memoir about his time in Auschwitz. And he said that the trick is to try to find meaning in the suffering. And the kid goes, "That's real." He goes, you ever wish that asteroid that took out the dinosaurs would hurry up and take us out too?" I said, "Dude, every day of my life." And he goes, "I don't know why I tell these stupid jokes. I just think I hate this job. I'm kind of lost in the world. Helps the time pass." I go, "Yeah, that's real, dude. I don't know why I told you I'm not a comedian. I am a comedian. Just every time I tell people that, they tell me jokes and then they act like I should be impressed. They didn't write that joke. They fucking heard that joke. I wrote my joke. And I just don't want to get into it." And he's like, "You're a comedian?" I go, "Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm a comedian." He goes, "What's your name? I think I'd like your stuff." I said, "My name's Joe Rogan. And I think you would love my stuff." Joe Rogan. What if your gym teacher had a podcast? Do you think when a comic is dying, when it's like the end of their life, and they see the light, they just instinctually start telling their closer? You know what I mean? Some old road hack, he's in the hospital, he's on his deathbed. The doctors are like, "There's nothing more we can do for him. It's time to help him transition to that next phase as peacefully as possible." And he sees the light. And he's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna get out of here on this one." And the doctor's like, "No, sir, please conserve your energy." He's like, "Hey, y'all ever notice how, like, men and women are different? Sir, please, die with a little dignity. I'm begging you." No, hear me out. It's like, men are from Mars and women, how come you're so uptight about your anus? Beep, beep, Time of death. 11:17. Oh my God, he's trying to say something. What is it, sir? Yes, I'll pass along any message. Something to a loved one? What is? I got merch for sale! I do have merch for sale. Whenever you talk to people about comedy, they want to know the hardest you've ever bombed. They want to know the worst it's ever gone for you. They're like, tell me the hardest you ever ate shit in comedy. And I always had a stock answer for that. It was Tacoma Community College. I played there during lunch hour in the cafeteria for ESL students eating. That was one of the worst gigs I ever did. And I'd always tell people about that story when they're like, tell me the worst one. What's the worst it ever got? But I'm not too happy to let you know that I now have a new worst story ever because I recently bombed in front of John Elway. That's right. I ate shit in front of retired Hall of Fame Denver Broncos quarterback John Elway. And a lot of you are just like, well, whatever, dude. You've been doing it 20 years now. Just dust yourself off onto the next show, right? No, I don't think you understand it. Because I was born and raised in Colorado. I'm from here. And when you say that now, I think it means something different than it did when I was a kid. When you tell people you're from Colorado now, they're like, Colorado? Awesome. I hear in Breckenridge, you can heli ski directly into a hazy IPA. And you're like, only if you're vaping, dude. You tell people you're from Colorado growing up, they're like, do you ride a horse to school? And you're like, yeah, once. But I don't like to talk about it because we had to put the horse down for insubordination. Denver now, dynamic, vibrant city. Denver growing up, my friends and I are like, we got to get out of this cow town. Denver growing up, there were only 3 things to do. You could go to the Mint. You could stare at the sun. And you could watch the Denver Broncos play football. And I gotta tell you guys, I was a pretty big fan of all 3. You couldn't get me out of that Mint. Not a day went by I didn't run in there after school and just yell, hey, whose dick do I have to suck to see the plates you used to make the Susan B. Anthony coins? And they'd be like, we're over here, kid. You been staring at the sun again? I'd be like, no. But by far my favorite activity was watching the Denver Broncos play football, and a huge part of that was because of John Elway. I'm not going to pretend everyone's intimately familiar with my city's sports history, so I will give you the cliff notes, which are these. In 1983, the Denver Broncos did something that had never been done before in the history of the NFL when they decided that they would draft an actual horse to play quarterback. No one had even thought to try it. And people were like, it's illegal, you'll get caught, you can't do that. And they're like, fucking hey, we can't do that. We're the Denver Broncos. We can draft a horse. We got to do it before the Colts beat us to it. So we drafted a horse. That horse's name was John Elway. And my God, what a horse. That horse took us to 5 Super Bowls, winning 2 of them. And he did it in dramatic fashion. Blowouts, those first 3 losses. Epic blowouts. I can still remember 1989, 55-10 loss. I was 8 years old. I shouldn't remember that. I remember it. Those losses, they do a thing to a young man's psyche. It was just cementing every doubt you ever had about yourself. Denver's not good enough. Denver's a loser. And then my senior year of high school, and again my freshman year of college, Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl as if to cement every hope you ever had for yourself. Denver is good enough. Denver is a champion. I'm good enough. I can be a champion. And you guys are like, Adam, you're being grandiose. This is hyperbolic. I ask you, have you ever had a conversation with anyone from Buffalo, New York? You can't do it. They can't hold your eye contact. So ashamed are they of their Super Bowl losses. They just start sobbing, go to a working class bar, listen to Goo Goo Dolls, wait for the next season, shovel out. And the only difference between Buffalo and Denver is those Super Bowl championships, 2 of which John Elway was directly responsible, and you could argue was for the third for bringing Peyton Manning here. So I got offered to play a gig for John Elway Auto Nation. John Elway owns a chain of car dealerships in Denver, John Elway Auto Nation. And they asked me to play their annual company Christmas party, an awards banquet and gala. It's what's known in my business as a corporate gig. Corporate comedy is to comedy as Christian rock is to rock. It's an abomination against God himself. But it pays very well, and so you do it because you are, in fact, a whore. So I took the gig, and I knew the gig was going to be terrible, but in my head I was like, what if it isn't terrible? What if I crush? What if I become John Elway's favorite comic? And on Sunday Broncos games, they cut to the box, and there's Elway up there spitting because he still chews, and I'm next to him eating hot dogs, just ha ha ha, just laughing. The dream, the absolute dream. So I go to the Sheridan Conference Ballroom downtown, and I walk into what was hour 3 of 4 of this party. And everybody was absolutely wasted and exhausted. And they just wanted the night to be over. And they're wrapping up the awards, and some MC just comes out of nowhere. And he's like, all right, everybody, we're going to have some music and then some comedy. Music, then comedy. The perfect order of things. Because you know what everybody loves in the middle of a concert? When you're having a good time, rocking out, when some guy you've never seen before just walks out and starts telling you his ideas. But they didn't do the band any favors either, because then the MC was like, but before any of that, as always, every year, now is your time to take a picture with Mr. Elway himself. At which point, John Elway emerged from where I don't know, in a blue suit with an orange tie, looking very old. Looking like a man who'd been hit for a living. And they marched him over to a corner of the room, and they positioned him behind a velvet rope, and there was a Christmas tree and a photographer, and everybody in that room lined up to take their picture with Elway. And me and the band are just watching this play out. And we estimated there were maybe 500 people in the room, and we're like, how many do you think are going to be here by the time they're done taking pictures with Elway? We counted, it was 53. 53 people remained to see our show, and they all went to 2 bars in the back, and they talked loudly and got drunk like any of us would do at a company Christmas party that would never end. Band got up there. First song they played, YMCA. I don't know why. Next song after that, like, celebrate good time. Come on! Like they were rocking the Republican National Convention. Which in a way they kind of were. They finished up their obligatory half hour. MC reemerges. Literally, this is his introduction for me. He just goes, okay, and now the comic. Look, I knew this was going to be a terrible show. I was texting pictures of it to my comedy buddies, describing the circumstances. They were just like, have fun eating every dick in the place. But I also grew up in Denver watching John Elway play football. And John Elway was the king of the fourth quarter comeback. The longer the odds against him, the more likely it was that he would prevail. And I think some of that seeped into my DNA, as it did anyone my generation who grew up in Colorado. The longer the odds against me, the more I think I'm going to succeed. Every time I've been to a terrible show and everybody's bombing, I'm like, not me. I'm going to crack this code. I'm going to make this crowd laugh. So I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out there, I'm going to pander harder than I've ever pandered. So this is literally the energy I greeted them with. I came out exactly like this, and this is what I said. I said, hey guys, I know you're tired. I know it's been a long night, but you need to know how much this gig means to me, because I'm from Denver, and I grew up watching John Elway play football, and it means the world to me that I could perform for him and his sales force. This is a big deal. Such a big deal for me that when I was finally able financially to buy my own car, not with help from my parents, my own car. I went to John Elway Honda back in 2006 for a CRV because I wanted that number 7 decal on the back. I wanted everybody to know that I ride with John. So I had that John Elway Honda, and then somebody just yells out, they just go, John Elway Honda closed. I go, what was that? They go, yeah, closed. Only outfit in the entire portfolio to ever go bankrupt 8 years ago. The rest of the show didn't go much better. I told jokes, they didn't like them. But more than that, they just weren't paying attention. They were in the back drinking. They just wanted me to shut up. And I just wanted to fulfill my time, to get the check. Until there was one very notable exception, which was the man himself, John Elway, who finished up taking photos and limped over to this seat, I swear to God, and looked up at me, just exhausted. And he gave me like a half smile, like, come on, kid. I could really use a laugh. So I looked at John Elway, and I told him a joke, and John Elway didn't laugh. And I told him another joke, and John Elway didn't laugh. When you do corporate gigs, they tell you to keep it clean. They rate it like movies, PG, PG-13. They told me to keep this one PG so everybody could enjoy it during the Christmas season. But I was bombing in front of my boyhood hero, a man whose poster I had on my wall. I had to make him laugh. I was like, I'm gonna tell John Elway a dirty joke. So I told John Elway a dirty joke, and he goes, ha! Just like that. Ha! A thick laugh, a robust laugh. A laugh that smacked of expensive scotch and finely upholstered leather chairs. And John Elway laughed, and then everybody at the table laughed, because they were all terrified of him. And I was like, John Elway likes the dirt. I'm going to give him another one. I told John Elway another dirty joke. He goes, ha ha! Double laughs. He laughed so hard his shoulders shook. I will never forget the sight of John Elway's shoulders shaking. Those shoulders that carried an American city atop them for 2 decades, laughing at my joke. And then I was like, I'm going to tell John Elway a joke about cum, and I did, and he didn't like it at all. It was too much. It was too far. I flew too close to the sun on wings made of cum. I did something that I've never done before or since, which is to walk off stage without saying a word to anyone, exit the building, and go to a bar that I could be sure was far enough away that no one at the show could possibly arrive there, and I drank until life felt funny again. They had asked me to perform for 40 minutes that night. I got off the stage, I looked at my watch, I had done 19 minutes. Before the band, before me, they had John Elway come out and give a few words of wisdom to rally the sales troop for the coming year. And here's what John Elway said to John Elway Auto Nation. John Elway said, people always ask me what it takes to be great. How do you get to be considered one of the greats? And I always tell those people, you don't have to be great all the time, but you have to be good all the time. And if you're good all the time for long enough, people will say that you were great. I performed comedy that night for 19 minutes. And I think that I was good for 2 of them. But I got paid $4,000. So I say, if you can only be good for a micro percentage of the time, get paid $2,000 a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I probably could have chosen anywhere I wanted to do my special 20 years in town. A lot of doors have opened for me. Could have done there's the used store it right there. Could have done Walgreens, Crystal Shop across Colfax. But I said no. I said I want to do the Lions Lair where it all started, you know? And so I threw them some dates, and they were booked. And so I threw them 4 more dates. And the first and the second, conflicts. The fourth was a conflict they said they'd see because they had a hold, but the third was wide open. I said, let's book the third. And yeah, that's how it all came to be. Wait, it was the second. The second one, the third had a hold. The second one had no holds. So that's how we agreed we'd do it in the second of the second 4 dates.
Here's a tip for you guys. If you have your butter in your refrigerator, you're doing it wrong. You're messing up life. Take that butter out of the refrigerator, get a little basin, put it right next to the stove. It'll melt, it'll be so spreadable. And you guys are like, Adam, what are you talking about? I'll get sick. No, shut up. You know how long people lived without refrigeration? It'll be fine right there next to the stove and it'll be warm. You don't have to fight a frozen chunk of milk every time you want to have some goddamn toast. Put the butter next to your stove, let it be spreadable. You'll thank me. And also, do not tell your family how much you think about death. They don't want to know that. You're the breadwinner. It's concerning to them. If they ask how many times a day, don't say 10, 11. I picture my funeral constantly. Just say, kids, who wants some toast? Come over here. The butter's ready. Give some to your friends, everyone. Enjoy the toast. Life is fine. And also, mountain lions are watching you. What you do with that information is up to you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out to our special. I sure do appreciate it. Y'all are the absolute best. Thank you so much, everyone. Hell yeah.
You know, it'd be cool if they said when I'm dead and gone, when it's all over. I saw Adam Cayton-Holland once. He was on all fours, retching in a field. I think that'd be cool. All right.